My billionaire husband introduced another woman as his wife in front of 300 donors, 2 senators, and every investor who had ever called me invisible. He did it with his hand on Celeste Monroe's waist, his smile steady, his voice warm, as if the real wife standing at the back of the ballroom had already been erased. The room applauded before anyone noticed I had taken off my wedding ring. I did not scream, I did not walk onto the stage, I did not throw wine at the woman wearing the emerald earrings I had once left in my own bedroom drawer. I opened my phone under the shadow of a marble column and sent one message to my lawyer, Trigger Clause 7, pull Meridian before midnight. Nora answered in less than 10 seconds. Are you sure? Unstage, Adrian Vale leaned toward the microphone and said, my wife, Celeste, has been the heart behind tonight's work. The applause grew louder. I looked at the man whose empire had been built on my contacts, my trust, my family's infrastructure rights, my signature, and my silence. Then I typed back, I have never been more sure. I arrived at the Meridian charity gala through the side entrance because Adrian's assistant told me the front steps were crowded with press. That should have been the first warning. For 6 years, I had entered ballrooms beside Adrian Vale. I had stood 1/2 step behind him when he rang the opening bell for Vale Global's public offering. I had smiled through award dinners, expansion ceremonies, and fundraisers where men in black tie praised his brilliance while shaking the hand of the woman who had quietly built the first bridge beneath him. Tonight I arrived alone. A young event coordinator with a headset glanced at my name and froze. Mrs. Vale, she said, but her voice fell at the end. I noticed the hesitation. I also noticed the way she looked over my shoulder as if someone might appear and correct her. Is there a problem? I asked. No, of course not. She gave me a smile so polished it nearly cracked. Your table is near the front. She handed me a program. The cover was ivory and gold. Meridian Children's Hospital Annual Gala, sponsored by Vale Global Holdings. Adrian's name sat beneath the title in embossed letters. So did Celeste Monroe's, not as brand consultant, not as committee chair, not as Adrian's guest. Celeste Monroe Vale. I stared at the printed name until the gold letters blurred. For a moment, the whole lobby became strangely quiet. I could still hear laughter from the ballroom, cameras clicking near the floral wall, the low hum of a string quartet. But inside my head something went still. I turned the page. Opening remarks by Adrian Vale and Mrs. Celeste Vale. My throat tightened once, then released. There was my answer. This was not a mistake made by a careless intern. This had gone through the sponsor packet, the printer, the seating chart, the press notes, the donor list, and Adrian's office. This had been approved, corrected, and delivered. A mistake happened once. This was a plan. I walked into the ballroom with the program folded in my hand. The room glittered in the way wealthy people preferred when they wanted poverty to feel tasteful from a distance. Crystal chandeliers hung over round tables dressed in white linen. Blue orchids rose from silver vases. On a large screen behind the stage, a montage played of children in hospital gowns holding teddy bears beside doctors with practiced smiles. And at the center table, in the seat marked Mrs. Adrian Vale, sat Celeste. She was wearing green, not just any green. The deep emerald shade Adrian once said made my eyes look warmer. Her gown slipped off one shoulder, bright beneath the chandelier light. Her hair was swept into a smooth knot. At her ears hung my emerald earrings, not identical earrings, mine. I had left them in the velvet drawer of the primary bedroom 2 months ago before I moved into the guest suite after another argument Adrian refused to finish. He had said he needed space. I had given it to him because I was tired of begging a man to tell me where his nights went. Now my earrings were catching light beside Celeste's face. She turned her head and saw me. For 1 second, fear flashed across her features. Then she smiled. It was not a surprised smile. It was a welcome to my house smile. Adrian stood beside her, one hand resting on the back of her chair. He was laughing with Senator Rhodes and the head of Whitmore Pension Alliance, one of the largest institutional partners in the Meridian deal. The Meridian deal, my deal, the one Adrian liked to call his turning point in interviews. 5 years ago, Vale Global had been overleveraged and cornered by debt. Adrian had charisma, ambition, and a company full of polished pitch decks. What he did not have was access to the port data systems, municipal infrastructure contracts, and pension-backed funding structure that turned Vale Global from a regional logistics company into an international player. I had brought him Hart Trust's infrastructure rights. I had introduced him to Whitmore. I had designed the final bridge. I had also written Clause 7 into the agreement: reputation, disclosure, and material misrepresentation. Adrian had laughed when he first read it. "Do you think I'm going to run away with investor money?" he had asked, pulling me into his lap in our old apartment, back when we still shared cheap takeout and impossible dreams. "No," I had said, "I think successful men forget who protected them on the way up." He had kissed my shoulder and told me I worried too much. Now he lifted a champagne glass toward the ballroom. The lights dimmed, someone called for everyone to take their seats. My seat was occupied, so I stayed standing near the back. A waiter approached me quietly. "May I help you find your table?" "No," I said, "I found it." He followed my gaze. His face changed, but he said nothing. The gala chair stepped onto the stage and welcomed the room. She praised generosity, vision, partnership. Then she introduced Adrian as the man whose leadership had changed the future of urban medical access. Adrian walked up to the stage. Celeste went with him, not behind him, beside him. The room applauded. He placed his hand lightly at her waist. The gesture was intimate enough to be understood and controlled enough to be denied. I felt people begin to notice me. A woman from the hospital board turned, looked at Celeste, looked at me, then looked away too quickly. Daniel Price, Vail Global's CFO, stood near the front with his face pale and frozen. He knew, or maybe he had just realized he should have known. Adrian reached the microphone. "Good evening," he said. "Tonight is personal for me. Meridian was never just a business partnership. It was a promise that wealth should build access, and success should build something beyond itself." His voice was perfect. It always was. Then he turned to Celeste, "And none of this would have been possible without the woman who gave this mission its heart, my wife, Celeste." The applause came like a wave. Some people clapped because they believed him. Some clapped because everyone else did. Some clapped while staring at me in horror. Celeste lowered her eyes in an elegant imitation of humility. I remembered teaching Adrian how to speak to donors without sounding hungry. I remembered sitting up until 3 in the morning rewriting his first Meridian proposal. I remembered transferring the first emergency bridge payment from my personal reserve when payroll nearly failed in year 1. I remembered his mother telling me I should be grateful Adrian let me stay private instead of dragging me into cameras. Private, that was what they had called my erasure. I looked down at my left hand. The diamond ring felt suddenly heavy. Adrian had chosen it with borrowed money and trembling hands when neither of us knew whether his company would survive another quarter. Back then, the ring meant we were building something together. Tonight, it meant I had mistaken history for loyalty. I slid it off. No dramatic gesture, no shaking hands, just skin remembering its own shape. Then I opened my phone. Nora Blake's contact sat at the top of my recent messages because I had called her 3 weeks earlier after finding a hotel charge Adrian claimed was a client dinner. Nora had not told me what to do. She had only said, "When you are ready to know the difference between pain and evidence, call me." I was ready. I took a photo of the program, another of the stage, another of the seating chart visible near the ballroom entrance. Then I recorded 10 seconds of Adrian standing under the Meridian logo with his hand on Celeste's waist. "My wife Celeste," he said again, as if repetition made theft legal. I sent everything to Nora. Then I typed, "Trigger clause 7. Pull Meridian before midnight." Her reply came fast. "Are you sure?" I looked at Adrian. For years I had protected him from panic, creditors, bad press, his mother's greed, his board's impatience, and his own need to be admired. I had done it because I loved him. I had done it because I believed partnership meant standing between your person and the storm, but standing between him and consequences had turned me into the floor beneath his feet. I typed, "I have never been more sure." Then I turned and walked out before dessert was served. Behind me the applause continued. By midnight it would stop. Adrian found me in the service hallway outside the ballroom. I had almost reached the elevators when his voice cut through the quiet. "Evelyn." I stopped, not because he deserved it, but because I wanted to see his face before the first domino fell. He looked irritated, not guilty. That told me everything. His bow tie was still perfect. His cuff links were the platinum ones I had given him after the Meridian closing. The night he cried into my hair because the company was saved and he could finally breathe. He had worn them tonight while calling another woman his wife. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Home. This is not the time for a scene." I almost laughed. The hallway smelled of lemon polish and expensive flowers. Behind the ballroom doors, music swelled. Somewhere, Celeste was probably accepting condolences for the emotional burden of being loved by my husband in public. I did not make a scene. I said, "You walked out." "Yes." His jaw tightened. "Evelyn, you know how these events work. Celeste is handling donor relations. The program language was a branding mistake called her Mrs. Celeste Vale. It was printed before anyone caught it, and your speech. He looked away for half a second. That was the first crack. I improvised, he said. You improvised a wife. His eyes hardened. Lower your voice. I had not raised it. That was another thing I had learned in marriage. A man who feared your calm would accuse it of noise. I held up the program. You introduced your mistress as your wife at an event built on my trust's deal. His expression shifted. Not enough for most people to notice, but I knew Adrian's face. I had watched it through investor calls, debt negotiations, and nights when he pretended not to be afraid. He had expected tears. He had prepared for anger. He had not prepared for the word deal. Do not mix personal feelings with business, he said. I did not. Good, then go home. We'll talk tomorrow. We will talk through lawyers. His mouth flattened. Evelyn. I stepped closer, close enough to smell champagne on his breath. You called her your wife, I said. In a room full of Meridian investors, hospital trustees, press representatives, and public officials, you allowed printed materials to misidentify her as your spouse. You let her sit in my assigned seat. She is wearing my earrings. His eyes flicked toward my ears, as if only then remembering the jewelry. That is what you want to focus on, he said. Earrings. No, I am focusing on pattern, intent, and public misrepresentation. For the first time he went quiet. A small sound came from behind him. Celeste stood near the ballroom doors, one hand resting against the frame. Her smile was delicate, uncertain, and false. Adrian, she said softly, people are asking for you. He did not turn around. I looked at her earrings again. Keep them, I said. They suit the costume. Her face flushed. Adrian took one step toward me. Do not speak to her like that. There it was. Not I am sorry. Not I humiliated you. Not I made a terrible mistake. Only a command to protect the woman who had stepped into my life wearing my name. I nodded once. Good night, Adrian. I entered the elevator before he could answer. The doors closed on his angry face, only when the elevator began to descend. Did I let myself exhale? My phone vibrated. Nora. Notice sent to escrow counsel. Formal withdrawal pending supporting evidence. I need you out of the marital home tonight if you intend to proceed. I stared at the message until the words became real. Out of the marital home. The house in Westbrook had 6 bedrooms, a limestone terrace, 2 kitchens, and a library Adrian never used but loved showing to guests. The deed was complicated. The down payment had come partly from my premarital reserve and partly from a Vale company bonus that only existed because of Meridian's first phase. I had decorated the breakfast room. I had planted rosemary in the garden. I had chosen the blue tiles in the downstairs powder room because Adrian once said they reminded him of the coast in winter. It had never felt less like mine than it did that night. Our driver was waiting by the curb. He opened the door quickly, eyes lowered. Mrs. Vale. I paused. Evelyn, I said. He looked startled. My name is Evelyn. Yes, on. The ride home, Manhattan slid past in streaks of gold and black. My phone kept lighting up. Adrian called 4 times. Margaret Vale, his mother, called twice. An unknown number texted me. You are embarrassing yourself. Go back inside before people talk. I knew it was Celeste. She had always preferred borrowed things. Even courage. I ignored them all. Instead, I opened the secure folder on my phone and reviewed the checklist Nora had made me create when I first suspected Adrian was moving money in ways he should not. Personal documents. Trust files, original Meridian term sheets, prenuptial agreement, bank records, jewelry appraisals, property contribution records, password changes, shared credit freeze. I had thought making the list meant I did not trust my husband. Now I understood it meant I had not completely abandoned myself. At the house, the lights were on. Mrs. Bell, our housekeeper, opened the door before I could unlock it. She was in her 60s, with kind eyes and a spine straighter than most lawyers I knew. Mrs. Vale, she said then. Stopped when she saw my face. Not tonight, I said quietly. Please do not call me that tonight. Her eyes softened. What do you need? Boxes, the black suitcase from the guest room, and if anyone calls I am not available. She did not ask questions. That was why I had always respected her. In the primary bedroom, Celeste's perfume lingered, not strongly, just enough. A silk scarf lay over the back of Adrian's reading chair, pale gold, not mine. For a few seconds I stood in the doorway and looked at the bed where I had once believed love could survive ambition. Then I moved. I packed like a woman escaping a fire. Passport, birth certificate, trust documents, 2 laptops, the velvet box that held my mother's pearls, the framed photo of my father outside the old Hartport Authority building, The external drive hidden behind a row of old tax folders in Adrian's desk. I found the folder I had expected, revised Meridian closing authorization. My signature line sat at the bottom. It had been printed for tonight. He had planned to have me sign after the gala, maybe over breakfast, maybe after telling me not to overreact, maybe after reminding me that thousands of jobs depended on my ability to be mature. I took a photo of the document and placed it back exactly where I found it. Then I opened my banking app and ended every scheduled transfer connected to Adrian's personal expense account. 4 years, my private reserve had covered what he called temporary liquidity gaps, tailor invoices, political donations, private travel, emergency legal retainers, family obligations, his mother's house staff, his sister's failed wellness brand. Temporary had become permanent because I had allowed love to become a subsidy. I stopped them one by one. The final transfer was labeled AV discretionary support. I pressed cancel. A small confirmation appeared. Scheduled transfer terminated. It looked too small for the amount of life it returned to me. Downstairs, the front door opened hard enough to hit the wall. Evelyn, Adrian's voice filled the house. Mrs. Bell appeared in the bedroom doorway, alarmed. "It's all right," I said. "Let him come up." His footsteps hit the stairs fast. He entered the bedroom still wearing his tuxedo, but the polished calm was gone. His hair was disordered, his phone was in his hand. "What did you do?" he demanded. "I zipped my suitcase." "That depends which part reached you first." His eyes were bright with fury. "Daniel called. Escrow counsel received a withdrawal notice from Heart Trust. Tell me that is Nora overstepping." "It is not. You pulled Meridian." "I initiated the withdrawal clause." His face changed again. This time fear made it through. "You cannot do that." "I can. I did. You are my wife." I looked at him then. "No," I said. "Tonight you told 300 people Celeste was." For once, Adrian had no immediate answer. From the stairs below I heard another voice. "Celeste, Adrian, is everything okay?" I laughed softly, not because anything was funny but because some humiliations were so complete they became clean. He had brought her home to my house. After introducing her as his wife, I picked up my suitcase. Adrian moved to block the door. "You are not leaving with company files," he said. "These are my trust files. They are connected to Vale Global. They are connected to me." His hand tightened on the doorframe. "Evelyn, listen to me. If this deal collapses, everything I built is exposed." I met his eyes. "No, Adrian, everything I built is finally protected." Then I walked past him. Celeste stood at the foot of the stairs, still wearing my earrings. When she saw the suitcase, her lips parted. I stopped beside her. "You wanted my place," I said. "Start with the house at midnight, the lawyers at 9, and the debt by Friday." Then I left. Behind me, Adrian called my name for the first time in 6 years. I did not turn around. Nora Blake's office had no flowers, no soft couches, and no framed quotes about justice. It had glass walls, black coffee, locked file cabinets, and a conference table that made people sit up straight even when they wanted to fall apart. I arrived at 7:30 the next morning wearing the same black dress from the gala under a grey coat. My hair was pinned badly. I had slept for 40 minutes on the sofa in a corporate apartment Heart Trust kept for visiting consultants. I had not cried yet. Nora noticed all of it and commented on none of it. She placed a mug in front of me. "Drink." "I'm not sure coffee is wise. Neither is facing a billionaire husband on no sleep." I drank. She opened a folder. The withdrawal notice went out at 11:47 p.m. Escrow counsel acknowledged receipt at 12:03. Whitmore requested supporting documentation at 12:21. Meridian's board chair called me at 1:10. I did not answer because lawyers who answer emotional calls after midnight deserve what happens next. Despite myself, I smiled. It faded quickly. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now Adrian tries to frame this as a domestic dispute. We prevent that." Nora tapped the first page. Clause 7 does not activate because your feelings were hurt. It activates if there was material misrepresentation, reputational risk, undisclosed conflict, or conduct likely to damage the trust's participation in the transaction. He called his mistress his wife, in public, in printed materials, at a sponsored event tied directly to the partnership. Nora slid the program across the table. It was already in an evidence sleeve. "That is not nothing." She was wearing my earrings. "That is emotionally relevant, legally less so unless purchased with marital funds or removed from your property without consent." She took them from my bedroom. "Then we document it." Her calmness steadied me, not because it made the pain smaller, but because it gave the pain somewhere to go. I handed her my phone. I took photos. Video, the seating chart, the program, Adrian in the hallway, some messages after. Nora connected the phone to her laptop and began creating a secure copy. Any witnesses? Daniel Price saw me. Several board members. The event coordinator looked terrified when she handed me the program. The waiter at the back noticed the seat issue. Security will have footage. Good. The word sounded strange. Nothing about this was good, but useful was close enough. Nora looked up. Did Adrian ask you to sign anything recently? I took out the photo of the revised Meridian authorization. Her expression sharpened. When was this printed? The date on the footer is yesterday, and he did not disclose the public program issue before preparing this. No, that helps, because it shows intent. Because it shows he intended to secure your signature while concealing a material reputational issue he created. I sat back. There had been a time when I loved Adrian's ambition. It had felt like heat in a cold room. He wanted more, and I wanted to help him reach it because I had grown up around people who treated wealth like a wall. Adrian had treated it like a door. I had not understood that some men, after walking through a door you helped open, would lock it behind them and tell the world they built the house. Nora pulled out another folder. Now we discussed divorce. The word landed harder than I expected. Divorce, not argument, not separation, not space, a legal severing. I know, I said, though my voice was quieter. Do you? I looked at her. Nora's face softened just slightly. Evelyn, pulling Meridian will start a war. Filing for divorce will define the battlefield. If you are not ready for both, we discussed timing. Adrian brought her home last night. Nora stilled. To the Westbrook house. Yes. While you were there. Yes. Did she enter before or after you left? Before. She was downstairs. Nora wrote something down. All right, that answers timing. My phone buzzed on the table. Adrian. Nora glanced at it. Do not answer. I did not. A second later, a text appeared. We need to fix this before you destroy both of us. Both of us. I showed Nora. She took a screenshot. Classic. What is? Men who confuse consequences with mutual destruction. Another message arrived. You know what Meridian means. Don't be emotional. Nora's eyebrows rose. I felt something cold settle in my chest. For years, emotional had been the word Adrian used when I saw too much, when I questioned a late night, when I challenged his mother's spending, when I refused to attend dinners where people treated me like an accessory, when I asked why Celeste was copied on private travel plans. Emotional meant inconvenient. Emotional meant female. Emotional meant ignore her until she apologizes for noticing. I picked up my phone and typed one sentence. All communication goes through counsel. Nora nodded approvingly. I sent it. Adrian replied almost immediately. Do not do this. I did not answer. At 10:15, Nora's receptionist entered carrying a large envelope. Courier for Mrs. Vale. Nora held out a hand before I could take it. From Vale Global. Of course, inside was a revised authorization packet, a letter from Adrian's general counsel and a handwritten note. The typed letter was formal. The handwritten note was Adrian. Eve, sign this and come home. We can discuss everything privately. Do not let one bad night ruin what we built. One bad night. I stared at the words. Not one affair, not months of lies, not my seat stolen, not another woman in my earrings, not a ballroom applauding my erasure. One bad night. Nora read the note and let out a sound that was almost a sigh. He still thinks the signature is the marriage. No, I said, he thinks the marriage is the signature. The difference mattered. He did not want me back because he loved me. He wanted the version of me that protected him, funded him, softened him, and signed where he pointed. I picked up the authorization packet. My signature line waited. Evelyn Hartvale. For years, I had used the full name because it felt like union, heart and veil, my past and my present, my family and my marriage. Now the two names looked like a legal dispute. I took Nora's pen. She watched me carefully. I did not sign. I wrote across the first page in clean block letters, declined. Then I placed the packet back in the envelope. Send it back, I said. Nora's mouth curved faintly. With pleasure. By noon, my refusal had reached Vale Global. By 12:30, Adrian's mother called 11 times. By 1, 3 board members had requested emergency meetings. By 2, Celeste posted a photo from the gala on social media. She had cropped Adrian's face close to hers and captioned it, "Proud to stand beside the man who taught me what partnership means." She was still wearing my earrings. I stared at the post for a long moment, then I sent it to Nora. Add this, I wrote. Nora replied, already saved. That evening, Margaret Vale sent a message. Family dinner tomorrow. You will come. This has gone far enough. I read it twice, then I answered. I will come, Nora called within seconds. Why? I looked at the spreadsheet Mia had just sent me, showing a down payment on a Tribeca apartment routed through a Vale family expense account 3 months earlier. The recipient entity was CM Holdings LLC Celeste Monroe. Because they still think this is about a gala, I said. It is not. No, it is about the bill. Margaret Vale believed family dinners could solve anything, provided the right person was pressured hard enough. She had hosted them for years in the formal dining room of the Westbrook house, beneath a chandelier too large for the ceiling and a portrait of Adrian's late father looking sternly down at whoever disappointed her most that week. Usually that had been me. I arrived exactly on time, not early, because I was no longer trying to prove respect, not late, because I was not afraid. Mrs. Bell opened the door, her eyes flicked to the small leather folder in my hand. Good evening, Evelyn. The sound of my name warmed something in me. Good evening. From the dining room came the low murmur of voices: Adrian's sister, Lydia, his cousin Paul, Margaret, Adrian, and Celeste. I walked in, everyone stopped talking. Celeste sat at the foot of the table, in the chair I had used for every holiday, birthday, and board-adjacent family dinner since Adrian and I bought the house. She wore cream silk and no emerald earrings. Smart, not smart enough. Adrian stood near the sideboard with a glass of scotch. He looked tired. That should have satisfied me, but exhaustion was not accountability. Margaret sat at the head of the table like a judge who had already reached a verdict. Evelyn, she said, sit down. I looked at the remaining chair halfway down the table. No. Lydia's mouth parted. Paul looked into his wine as if answers lived there. Adrian set down his glass. Evelyn, I was invited to a family dinner, I said. Apparently my chair is occupied. Celeste lowered her eyes. I can move. Then do. The room went still. Celeste's face flushed. She looked to Adrian. He did nothing. That was interesting. Power shifted in small silences before anyone admitted it. Celeste rose slowly and moved to the side chair. I took my old seat, placed the leather folder beside my plate, and unfolded my napkin. Margaret's lips thinned. This childish performance is exactly why Adrian hesitated to involve you in public events. I almost admired the speed of it. I had been erased in public. Now I was childish for naming it in private. Adrian did not hesitate, I said. He replaced. Celeste's voice came soft. I never wanted to hurt you. I looked at her. You wore my name. She swallowed. The program was not my decision, but the chair was. No answer. Adrian rubbed his forehead. Enough, we are here to fix this. Good, I said. Start by correcting the public record. Issue a statement that I am your legal wife. Celeste is your employee and mistress, and the gala materials were false. Lydia gasped. Margaret's eyes flashed. Absolutely not. Adrian gave a short laugh. You know I can't put out a statement like that. Then you cannot fix this. It would destroy the company's reputation. You did that on stage. His hand tightened around the stem of his glass. Margaret leaned forward. You benefited from that company for years. This house, your clothes, your name in society. Do not pretend you are above it. I smiled faintly. My clothes. It was the wrong accusation to make to a woman holding bank records. I opened the folder. Nora advised me not to discuss legal matters directly with you. I said, so I will keep this simple. Adrian's expression darkened. What is that? Records. I placed the first page on the table. 3 months ago, Vale Family Holdings wired $2 million to CM Holdings LLC for a Tribeca apartment down payment. Celeste went white. Margaret blinked. What are you implying? I am not implying, I am reading. I placed the second page beside the first. CM Holdings is registered to Celeste Monroe. Paul shifted in his chair. Lydia whispered, oh my God. Adrian took a step forward. Those are confidential company records. No, these are marital expense records tied to accounts my premarital reserve repeatedly replenished. I placed another page down. Here is the jewelry invoice. Here are the hotel charges. Here are the transfers marked as consulting advances. Celeste's hand trembled around her water glass. She recovered quickly. I was compensated for work. Were the emerald earrings compensation? Her lips closed. Margaret turned to Adrian. Tell me this is being misrepresented. Adrian did not answer. The silence at that table became heavier than any shouting could have been. For the first time, Margaret looked uncertain, not remorseful, not ashamed, uncertain. Her loyalty had never been moral, it had been financial. If Adrian's affair threatened the family structure, Celeste would become less charming very quickly. I looked around the table. Let me explain something. I said, You all thought I was quiet because I was weak. I was quiet because I was busy protecting assets you kept spending. Adrian's voice dropped. Careful. No, I was careful for 6 years. I was careful when your mother's Palm Beach staff payroll came from an account you forgot to fund. I was careful when Lydia's wellness company defaulted and you asked me to bridge it privately so her name would not appear in court filings. I was careful when Paul needed an introduction after his last fund collapsed. I was careful when you came home smelling like Celeste's perfume and told me I was imagining things. Lydia stared at the table. Paul had the decency to look ashamed. Margaret did not. You are Adrian's wife, she said coldly. A wife protects her husband. I closed the folder. No, a partner protects a partner. A wife is not insurance against humiliation. Celeste's eyes filled with tears. It was impressive how quickly she found them. I love him, she whispered. I did not ask for any of this. I turned to her. You asked for the chair, you asked for the name, you asked for the apartment, you asked for the earrings. You asked for everything except the cost. Adrian slammed his glass down. Enough. Red wine jumped in Lydia's glass. He looked at me with the fury of a man watching his private life become documentation. You will not come into my house and attack everyone. I stood. Your house. His face changed. I had not planned to use that card yet. But sometimes men open doors for you while trying to throw you out. I removed one final page from the folder. The Westbrook property deed lists my premarital contribution as protected equity. The renovation loan was paid down through Heart Trust distributions. Your company bonus covered less than you told your family. I placed the page on the table. So, if you want to discuss whose house this is, we can do that in court. Margaret stared at the deed summary. Celeste looked at Adrian. Adrian looked at me as if seeing the outline of someone he had never bothered to study. I picked up my coat. Dinner was helpful, I said. Thank you. At the doorway, Margaret called after me. If you leave now, do not expect this family to welcome you back. I turned. For years that sentence would have hurt me. I had spent holidays trying to earn a place at their table. I had brought flowers, gifts, patience, and silence. I had mistaken access for belonging. Now I looked at the chair Celeste had vacated. You never welcomed me, I said. You used me. No one followed me out. In the foyer, Mrs. Bell handed me my gloves. Her voice was low. Do you need anything else? Yes, I said. Please preserve last night's entry logs. She nodded once. Already copied. I stared at her. She gave me the smallest smile. Some of us knew whose house kept standing. Outside, the night air felt sharp and clean. As I reached my car, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Celeste, you are unstable. Everyone sees it now. A second message followed. You should have stayed invisible. I took a screenshot, then I sent it to Nora. By morning I had become the villain. The first article appeared on a finance blog known for receiving leaks from executives who wanted gossip to look like analysis. Veil global expansion threatened by founders' domestic turmoil. The second was worse. Sources say Adrian Vale's estranged wife blocks hospital partnership amid jealous dispute. By noon, the word jealous had traveled farther than the truth. I sat on the floor of the corporate apartment surrounded by printed emails, bank statements, and 2 empty coffee cups. The apartment had white walls, rented furniture, and no memories. At first it felt cold. By the 3rd hour I appreciated the absence of ghosts. Mia Torres arrived with a laptop bag, a stack of folders, and the expression of a woman who had been waiting years for me to ask for help. You look terrible, she said. I know. Good. I hate when betrayed women look camera ready. It creates unrealistic expectations. I laughed for the first time in 2 days. Mia had worked with me during the original Meridian negotiations. She was 27 then, terrifyingly organized and immune to Adrian's charm. When I married him and stepped back from active deal work, she warned me once over lunch, do not become the bridge men walk over while thanking the architect. I had told her marriage was not business. She had said, everything is business when money is involved. I hated how often women were right before we were ready to listen. Mia opened her laptop. Nora looped me in. I pulled public filings, property records, and anything legally accessible. I need authorization to request historical bank statements tied to your protected contribution account. I slid the signed authorization across the floor. She blinked. You already had it ready. I am learning fast. My phone buzzed. Another article. This one included a photo of Celeste at the gala with Adrian's hand at her back. The caption called her his longtime philanthropic partner. The body of the piece implied my withdrawal of Meridian Fund's endangered children's healthcare access. That was the part that made my hands go cold. Adrian knew exactly where to hit. He knew I cared about Meridian Children's Hospital. My younger brother had died in a hospital room with cracked blinds and understaffed nurses because the specialist he needed was across the city and no transfer system moved quickly enough. Meridian had never been just a deal to me. It was the reason I had agreed to build the partnership in the first place. Adrian knew that, so he made the story about children, not about the wife he erased, not about the mistress he funded, not about the false public identity. Children. Mia read the article over my shoulder and cursed. He is using the hospital as a shield. Yes, can you respond? Nora says not emotionally. Nora is correct and annoying. A new email appeared from Nora, subject PR packet leak. Attached were screenshots from an anonymous source inside Adrian's communications team. I opened them. There it was. Draft talking points. Phrase, Mrs. Vale has struggled with the public demands of Adrian's philanthropic commitments. Phrase, the company remains committed to Meridian despite private family challenges. Phrase, Celeste Monroe has been instrumental in stabilizing donor relationships. Phrase, we hope Evelyn receives the support she needs. I read that last line 3 times. Support, a beautiful word when used honestly, a knife when used by men who wanted women discredited. Mia leaned over. They are trying to make you sound unstable. I know. Were these sent before or after the gala? I checked the timestamp. My stomach tightened. Before. The draft had been created 4 hours before Adrian walked on stage, before I found the program, before I left, before I pulled the deal. They had prepared the narrative first. That meant they knew the night might break me. They planned for my reaction before they caused it. Mia's face hardened. That is intent. I forwarded the email to Nora, then called her. She answered on the second ring. You saw it? I asked. Yes, this is useful. You keep saying that. Because it is. Pain becomes leverage when documented. I closed my eyes. I don't want leverage. I wanted my husband not to call another woman his wife. Nora was quiet for a moment when she spoke. Her voice was gentler. I know. That almost undid me. Not Adrian's rage, not Margaret's threats, not Celeste's smug little messages. Kindness. I pressed my fingers to my eyes until the tears retreated. What do we do? I asked. We preserve the gala footage. The venue may resist. Adrian was the title sponsor. I am sending a litigation hold letter now. I know the venue's security director. Mia said suddenly. I looked at her. From the original Meridian Summit, she said, Greg Alvarez, he liked you because you asked whether his staff got meal breaks. That sounded like me. Call him, Nora said through the speaker. Do not ask him to send footage directly. Ask him to preserve everything and confirm chain of custody. Mia was already dialing. Within 20 minutes. Greg Alvarez confirmed that security footage from the ballroom entrance, service hallway, and stage wings had been preserved. He would provide it only upon proper legal request, but he added one sentence that made Nora pause. There was also a staff incident report. What incident? I asked. Mia repeated the question into the phone. Greg's answer came through faintly. The seating issue. Coordinator noted that original Mrs. Vale's seat card was replaced by sponsor team. Mia's eyes met mine. Sponsor team, not printer mistake, not branding mistake. Someone had physically replaced my name with Celeste's. After the call ended, I sat very still. Mia closed the laptop halfway. Evelyn, I'm fine. No, you're functioning. That is different. I looked at her. The apartment was silent except for traffic below. I thought of all the times I had helped Adrian fix things before they reached crisis. I had reviewed language, softened creditors, reassured investors, forgiven late nights, explained away coldness, accepted less, waited longer. Functioning had always been my gift. It had become my cage. My phone lit again. Adrian. This time, he did not text. He sent a voice message. I played it on speaker. Eve, call me. This is out of control. Reporters are calling the hospital board. Whitmore is spooked. If you care about Meridian at all, stop Nora and sign the authorization. We can handle Celeste privately. But if you keep pushing, the hospital loses, employees lose, everyone loses. Is that what you want? The message ended. Mia looked disgusted. I replayed it once. Not because I wanted to hear his voice, but because I wanted to hear the shape of the manipulation. If you care, stop Nora, sign. We can handle Celeste privately. Everyone loses. Not once did he say, I lied. Not once did he say, I humiliated you. Not once did he say, I am sorry. I saved the audio and sent it to Nora. Then I opened a blank document. Mia looked over. What are you doing? Writing a statement. Nora said no emotional response. It will not be emotional. I typed slowly. Heart Trust remains fully committed to the mission of expanding medical access through ethical infrastructure partnerships. However, Heart Trust will not proceed with any transaction involving material misrepresentation undisclosed, conflicts of interest, or misuse of charitable platforms for personal deception. We are prepared to work with Meridian Children's Hospital through an alternative structure that protects the hospital, donors, and public trust. Mia read it and smiled. That is very polite for him, not the problem. He is. I learned from Expensive Men. Nora approved the statement with 3 edits. By evening it went out. The response was immediate. Hospital trustees stopped calling Adrian and started calling Nora. Whitmore requested a direct meeting with Heart Trust. 2 reporters asked why Vale Global's statement called Celeste a philanthropic partner while Gala Materials called her Mrs. Vale. At 9:14 p.m. Daniel Price emailed me, subject board meeting. Evelyn, the board has requested your presence tomorrow at 10 a.m. Adrian is framing this as an improper withdrawal caused by marital conflict. I think you should come. I also think you should know that some of us remember who brought Meridian to the table. I stared at the last sentence. Some of us remember. For years I had thought being remembered did not matter if I knew the truth. I was wrong. When powerful men rewrite history, memory becomes evidence. I forwarded the email to Nora. She replied, "We attend." Then another message appeared from Adrian. "If you walk into that boardroom against me, there is no coming back." I looked at the screen for a long time, then I typed, "That is the first true thing you have said." Vale Global's headquarters occupied 42 floors of a glass tower overlooking the river. Adrian loved that tower. He loved the private elevator, the brushed steel logo in the lobby, the way visitors tilted their heads back to see how high the company reached. I remembered the first office, 8 desks, leaking ceiling, 1 printer that jammed every morning at 9. Adrian used to tape investor rejection emails to the wall and call them future trophies. Back then, he made coffee badly and kissed me in the copy room like he could not believe I had chosen him. Now security checked my name twice before letting me upstairs. That was almost funny. Nora walked beside me in a navy suit. Mia followed with 2 binders and a tablet. I wore cream, not because I wanted to look innocent, but because I knew Adrian expected me in black again. Men like him mistook grief for costume. The boardroom doors opened. 12 faces turned. Adrian stood at the head of the table. Celeste sat behind him near the wall. Technically not at the table, practically in the room to be seen. Her hair was perfect. Her expression was wounded. Someone had coached her to look like collateral damage. Daniel Price sat near the far end. He met my eyes once and gave the smallest nod. Board chair Helena Morris cleared her throat. "Mrs. Vale, thank you for coming. Emma's heart is fine," I said. Adrian's jaw tightened. Helena noticed. "Good." Nora placed folders at every seat. "We are here voluntarily. Any questions regarding pending divorce matters will not be addressed. We will discuss only the transaction." Adrian gave a short laugh. "Convenient." Nora looked at him. "Accurate." Helena folded her hands. "Mr. Vale has represented that Heart Trust's withdrawal is an emotional response to private marital conflict and not grounded in transaction terms. We need clarity." Adrian stepped in before I could speak. "With respect, this entire situation is being exaggerated," he said. "There was an unfortunate error in Gala Materials. Evelyn was upset. I understand that, but Meridian cannot be held hostage because my wife and I are having difficulties." My wife. He used the title in that room because it helped him. I said nothing. Adrian continued. "Vale Global has fulfilled every operational condition. Heart Trust's sudden withdrawal is damaging to shareholders, employees, and the hospital. I am asking the board to authorize emergency action to compel performance." Nora opened her folder. "Before anyone discusses compulsion, let us establish whether the withdrawal was sudden." She clicked the remote. The screen at the end of the room lit up. First image, the Gala program, Mrs. Celeste Vale. Second image, the seating chart, Mrs. Adrian Vale, Celeste Monroe. Third image, a still from the stage, Adrian's hand at Celeste's waist. Fourth video, Adrian's voice filled the boardroom. "My wife Celeste." No one moved. Celeste looked at the floor. Adrian's face darkened. "This is humiliating and irrelevant." I spoke for the first time. "No, it was humiliating. That is why it is relevant." Helena looked at Nora. "Explain the legal connection." Nora turned to page 4 in the folder. Clause 7 permits Heart Trust to withdraw prior to final authorization if Vale Global or its controlling executive engages in material misrepresentation, creates undisclosed conflict risk, or uses partnership events in a way that damages Heart Trust's reputation or the integrity of the Meridian transaction, a board member named Stephen frowned. Calling someone the wrong title is enough to collapse a billion-dollar partnership. I looked at him. It was not the wrong title, it was my title. He flushed. Nora continued. The gala was not a private dinner, it was a transaction-linked donor and investor event. The woman introduced as Mrs. Vale was not Mr. Vale's wife. She was, according to company records, a paid brand consultant. She was also the beneficiary of undisclosed payments from accounts connected to Vale Family Holdings. Celeste lifted her head. That is a lie. Mia opened the second binder. It is not. Nora held up a hand. We are not litigating that fully today, we are establishing reasonable grounds for withdrawal. Adrian pointed at the screen. This is my marriage, not corporate misconduct. Daniel Price spoke then. His voice was quiet, but in that room quiet carried. With respect, Adrian, Meridian was never only corporate. Heart Trust required personal representations from you because the original structure depended on Evelyn's trust position and your marital disclosures. Adrian turned on him. Stay out of this, Daniel. Daniel's face tightened. I should have spoken earlier. That sentence changed the room. Helena leaned forward. Mr. Price, clarify. Daniel removed his glasses. The original Meridian access came through Evelyn Hart, the Hartport data license, the municipal introductions, the Whitmore pension structure. Adrian was CEO. But Evelyn built the bridge financing model. Her continued authorization was always essential. Silence. For years, Vale Global's mythology had been simple. Adrian saw the future. Adrian took the risk. Adrian built the empire. No one mentioned the woman who opened the locked gate. Adrian's voice went cold. Daniel, think carefully. I am, Daniel said. For the first time in a while, Celeste stood. This is cruel. Adrian made one mistake at a charity event and everyone is acting like he committed fraud. I turned to her. You signed into the donor reception as Celeste Vale. Her mouth opened. Mia slid another page forward. Guest log, Celeste Monroe Vale. You accepted the correction when a staff member asked if your name should be Monroe, I said. You said, according to her incident report, not after tonight. Celeste sat down. The room absorbed that. Adrian looked at me with something close to hatred. You had no right to collect staff gossip. I had every right to preserve evidence after you publicly replaced me. He leaned over the table. This is revenge. No, I said. Revenge would have been walking onto that stage and telling everyone how many nights you spent in her apartment. This is governance. Helena's mouth tightened as if suppressing a reaction. Nora closed her folder. Heart Trust is not asking this board to adjudicate a marriage. Heart Trust is informing this board that final authorization will not proceed under Mr. Vale's current representation and disclosure posture. If Meridian wishes to continue under alternative management, we are prepared to discuss. Adrian stared at her. Alternative management. There it was, the fear beneath the rage. Helena exchanged looks with two directors. Mr. Vale, she said slowly, given the seriousness of these materials, the board will convene an executive session. Adrian went still. You cannot be serious. I am. I founded this company, and we have fiduciary obligations. Celeste reached for his hand. He pulled away without thinking. I saw her face when he did it, so did everyone else. That was the thing about stolen places, they were never secure. A man who betrayed one woman for convenience would betray another for survival. Nora gathered her files. I stood. Adrian stepped toward me. Evelyn, wait. I did not. He followed me into the hallway. The doors closed behind us. For one moment, we were alone in the corridor lined with photographs of Vale Global milestones, ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings, Adrian shaking hands with governors, Adrian at ports, Adrian at hospitals. In 3 of the photos, my shoulder was visible at the edge, never my face. You are enjoying this, he said. I looked at the photos. No, I said, I am recognizing it. Recognizing what? How much of myself I let you crop out. His expression shifted. Pain, maybe, or the insult of being understood. I did not think you would go this far, he said. I know, that was the whole problem. He had mistaken my love for permission. The boardroom door opened. Helena's assistant stepped out. Mr. Vale, she said carefully, the board requests that you remain available but not present during executive session. Adrian stared at her. A founder being asked to leave his own boardroom, a man who built his empire on a quiet woman's signature, now standing outside a closed door. I walked to the elevator. This time he did not follow. Celeste came to my apartment 2 nights later wearing sunglasses after dark. That alone told me she was frightened. The doorman called first. Ms. Hart, there is a woman here asking to see you, Celeste Monroe. I looked across the table at Nora, who had come by to review the temporary asset protection petition. Nora's eyes narrowed. Absolutely not. I considered it, then I asked the doorman, is she alone? Yes, keep her in the lobby, I'll come down. Nora stood. Evelyn, the lobby has cameras. That is the only acceptable part of this sentence. I will not be alone. You can stand by the elevators and look terrifying. I always look terrifying. She did. When the elevator opened, Celeste was standing near the lobby's marble fireplace, arms folded tightly across her cream coat. Without the gala lighting, she looked younger, not innocent, just less polished. Her sunglasses were pushed onto her head, her eyes were red. I stopped several feet away. Whatever you came to say it here. She glanced at the doorman, then at Nora. I wanted to talk woman to woman. No, I said, you wanted to talk without lawyers. Her lips pressed together. For a second the softness dropped. I did not steal your husband. You accepted my name at a gala. He gave it to me. That was the first honest thing she had said. I nodded. And you took it. Her eyes flashed. Do you know what it is like to stand beside a man everyone wants something from, to be the one who calms him, listens to him, understands him? Yes, I said. I did it for 6 years without stealing anyone's seat. Her face tightened. He told me your marriage was over. Then why did he need to introduce you as his wife before divorcing me? She looked away. There was the answer. Because being chosen publicly mattered more to her than being chosen honestly. He said you refused to let go. She whispered. No, he refused to tell the truth. Celeste swallowed. He was unhappy. That old excuse, a man becomes unhappy so another woman turns his vows into a technicality. I am not here to debate his emotional weather, I said. She stepped closer. If you keep going you will ruin him. Actions do that. You loved him once. I did. Then stop. I stared at her. For the first time I saw the shape of her fear clearly. She was not afraid Adrian would lose money, not exactly. She was afraid the version of Adrian she had pursued would disappear without the money, the private planes, the gala tables, the penthouse promises, the reflected shine of being chosen by a billionaire. She did not want Adrian stripped down to truth. Neither had I once. That was why I knew she had never loved him cleanly. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small velvet pouch. My emerald earrings. She held them out. I should not have worn these. I did not take them. No, I said. You should not have entered my bedroom. Her hand trembled. He said they were family jewelry. They were mine. A tear slipped down her cheek. It looked real. That surprised me less than I expected. People could be cruel and wounded at the same time. Pain did not make them innocent. I'm pregnant, she said. The lobby went silent around us. Nora's head lifted sharply near the elevator. For a moment, my body forgot how to breathe. Then Celeste added, or I might be. I'm late. There it was, not fact, weapon. I let the silence stretch. Have you taken a test? I asked. Her eyes flickered. That is not the point. It is exactly the point. If there is a child, you cannot destroy his father. I almost felt sorry for her then, almost. Celeste, I said, if there is a child, that child deserves financial truth more than anyone. What they do not need is a mother using them as a shield before they exist. Her face crumpled, then hardened. You are cold. I am done being warm for people who burn my life down. She shoved the velvet pouch toward me. I still did not take it. Keep them, I said. Nora will list them in the property schedule. Celeste looked toward Nora. You are recording this. Nora smiled without warmth. The lobby is. Celeste's face changed. Not enough to make her confession neat, but enough. She stepped back. You think you are winning, she said. No, I said. I think I am leaving. You will be alone. There it was. The oldest threat women used against other women when both had been taught a man was the prize. I looked around the lobby, the doorman at his desk, Nora by the elevator, my own reflection in the dark window, tired but standing. I was alone. In my marriage, I said. This is just quieter. Celeste had no answer. She left the velvet pouch on the table near the fireplace and walked out. Nora waited until the doors closed before coming over. That was reckless, she said. Useful, she sighed, annoyingly. The doorman approached with the pouch. Ms. Hart. I looked at the earrings glittering against dark velvet. They had been my mother's. Adrian knew that. Celeste had not. That did not absolve her, but it clarified the chain of harm. Please put them in a security envelope, I said. Nora will arrange pickup. Back upstairs. Mia had sent new files, subject CM Holdings, and transfer trail. I opened the first attachment. The Tribeca apartment down payment was only the beginning. There were monthly transfers disguised as consulting retainers, a luxury car lease through a Veil subsidiary, jewelry invoices, a private fertility clinic charge billed to Adrian's discretionary account. I stopped at that one not because it hurt, more because it mattered. The date was 6 weeks before the gala. Celeste had known exactly what she was implying in the lobby. I sent the file to Nora. She read it silently, then she said, "We add this to Discovery." My phone vibrated. Adrian, this time a text. "Celeste is upset. What did you say to her?" I stared at the message. He had not asked why she came, he had not asked what she admitted, he had not asked whether I was all right. Celeste was upset. Even now, her feelings arrived to him as an emergency. Mine arrived as paperwork. I typed, "Ask your lawyer." Then I blocked his number. Not forever through counsel, but from direct access to me. It felt like closing a window in winter. The apartment became quiet. Mia sent another message. "Found something worse, call me." I called. She answered without greeting. The apartment down payment was routed through a short-term account funded by a Meridian advance reimbursement. I gripped the phone. "Say that again." Adrian appears to have used funds connected to pre-closing transaction activity to cover Celeste's property payment. I need full records to be certain. "But Evelyn, this is no longer just adultery and humiliation." I looked at Nora. She had heard. Her face went still. "What is it?" I asked, though I already knew. Nora closed the folder with a soft click. "It is fraud territory." Courthouses did not look like justice. They looked like tired marble, bad lighting, and people holding folders that contained the worst days of their lives. I arrived at the clerk's office at 8:05 a.m. with Nora on my right and a petition for temporary asset protection in my hand. No cameras, no gala lights, no champagne, no Adrian charming a room full of donors. Just paper. Paper had built his empire. Paper would begin taking it apart. Nora reviewed the filing one last time. "This requests temporary restrictions on specific marital accounts, preservation of financial records, and disclosure of transfers to third parties. It does not freeze everything. Because that would look punitive. Because that would be excessive. We are not him." I signed. "Where?" She pointed. "Evelyn Hart, not Vale." The clerk stamped the petition with a sound that felt final. Outside the office, Nora checked her phone. "Hearing on temporary orders is set for Monday." That fast? Money moves quickly when people fear it disappearing. Mia met us at her audit office afterward. She had turned a conference room into a war map. Bank records lined one wall, entity charts covered another, red tabs marked Celeste's accounts, blue tabs marked Vale family expenses, yellow tabs marked Meridian-related flows. It looked insane until you followed the arrows, then it looked obvious. Adrian was sloppy, Mia said. Adrian was arrogant, Nora corrected. Mia pointed to the first chart. Vale Global received a pre-closing reimbursement tied to integration costs under Meridian Phase 2. Some of that money moved through a discretionary executive account. From there, it covered payments to a shell vendor for brand consulting. The shell vendor paid CM Holdings. "Celeste's apartment," I said. "Yes." Nora's expression was unreadable. "Can we prove intent?" "Not fully yet, but we have timing, routing, and false descriptions." Mia clicked to another file. "Also, emails." She opened a thread between Celeste and Adrian. My pulse slowed as I read. "Celeste, I hate that everything still has to go through her." "Adrian, not after closing. Once Meridian is locked, I have room to restructure." "Celeste, and us." "Adrian, after the gala people will understand." "Celeste, will she?" "Adrian, Eve always adjusts." "Eve always adjusts." 3 words. 6 years of marriage reduced to a habit of swallowing pain. I sat down, not because I was weak, because sometimes the body needed a surface when the soul saw itself too clearly. Nora touched the back of a chair. "Do you need a break?" "No." Mia closed the email window halfway. "There is more. Show me." The next email was from Adrian to his general counsel. "Prepare final authorization packet for Evelyn. Keep discussion focused on hospital impact and timing. Avoid raising program issue unless she asks directly." The program issue, not mistake issue. He knew. He had planned to hide it long enough to get my signature. My hands were steady now. "Add it," I said. Mia nodded. By noon, Nora had filed the divorce petition. Irretrievable breakdown. Financial misconduct to be investigated. Request for equitable distribution. Preservation of evidence. No dramatic language. No betrayal paragraph. No mention of earrings. Law did not care about the exact sound your heart made when it broke. It cared where the money went, who lied, what was signed, and whether the lie changed the signature. So we gave it that. At 3:40 p.m. Vale Global's stock dipped after rumors spread that Meridian Phase 2 was at risk. At 4:15 Helena Morris announced that the board had formed a special committee. At 5:05 Adrian's lawyers requested an emergency meeting. At 6:30 Margaret Vale appeared at my apartment without calling. The doorman phoned up, "Ms. Hart, Mrs. Vale is here." For a second I almost said, "That is me." Then I remembered I did not want it anymore. Nora was gone, Mia had left. I was alone with takeout soup cooling on the counter and enough evidence to ruin a family that had once called me ungrateful. I told the doorman to send her up. Margaret entered like she still owned the air around me. She wore pearls, a camel coat, and the expression of a woman offended by consequences. "You have gone too far," she said. "I did not offer tea. You said that at dinner. At dinner I thought you were angry, now you are being destructive. I filed for divorce. You filed to freeze accounts, protect accounts. My household staff did not receive payment today." I looked at her. There it was, not heartbreak, not concern for her son's marriage, staff payroll. "Then ask Adrian why your household depends on money he no longer controls." Her face reddened. "You were happy to be part of this family when it gave you status." "No, Margaret, I was willing to be part of this family when I thought it required loyalty. I did not understand it required disappearance." She stepped closer. "You think you can walk away clean? You helped build him. If he falls, your name is on that history too." "For now," I said. Her eyes narrowed. I walked to the small desk near the window and picked up a copy of the divorce petition. Adrian introduced another woman as his wife. He prepared a false narrative before doing it. He attempted to secure my signature after concealing material facts. He moved money in ways he will need to explain. "If your concern is the family name, you should have raised him to understand that wives are not disposable assets." Margaret slapped me. It happened fast. Her palm struck my cheek with a sharp sound that seemed too small for the silence after. For 1 second, we stared at each other. Then I turned my head slowly back. The old me might have cried. The old me might have apologized for making her angry. The old me might have thought this was proof I had failed to be accepted. The woman standing there now walked to the wall panel and pressed the intercom. "Security, please come up. Mrs. Vale is leaving." Margaret's face changed. "You would have me removed?" "Yes, I am your mother-in-law." "Not for long." The security guard arrived within 2 minutes. Margaret left with her dignity cracked but intact enough to hiss one final sentence at the door. "You will regret humiliating this family." I touched my cheek. It stung. It would bruise. Good, bruises were easier to photograph than years of being diminished. I took 3 pictures in the bathroom mirror and sent them to Nora. Her reply came in capital letters. "Do not open the door for any of them again." A minute later another message arrived from Helena Morris. "The special committee requests your attendance at a formal investor hearing Friday morning. Mr. Vale will be present. Ms. Monroe may be called if necessary." I looked at my reflection, one cheek red, eyes tired, mouth steady. Friday, the gala had been Adrian's stage. The hearing would be mine. Adrian asked to meet me before the hearing. He did it through lawyers, which was the only reason I considered it. Nora chose the location, a private conference suite in a hotel neither of us had ever used. Neutral ground, security in the lobby, no private rooms, no sentimental places. Adrian arrived 10 minutes late. He used to be early for everything when he was hungry. Success had taught him that making people wait proved importance. He looked different, still handsome, still expensive, still Adrian, but the shine had dulled. His suit was immaculate, yet his eyes were shadowed. He had not shaved carefully. There was tension in his jaw I had once soothed with my thumb while he read bad quarterly numbers in bed. I hated that I remembered. He walked in alone. "No, Celeste, that was wise." Nora sat beside me. Adrian's lawyer sat beside him. For a moment it looked like business. Then Adrian looked at me and forgot the room. "Eve, no direct discussion outside counsel," Nora said. Adrian ignored her. "Please." I folded my hands on the table. His lawyer murmured something. Adrian shook his head. "I need to say this." Nora looked at me. I nodded once. Adrian leaned forward. "I handled the gala badly. I waited badly, a weak little word trying to cover a public execution. I let things go too far with Celeste." He continued. "I should have corrected the program. I should not have used that language on stage." "You mean wife?" I said. His throat moved. "Yes." The word cost him less than it had cost me. He looked down. I was under pressure. Celeste had been handling donor relationships. People expected her beside me. The press package was already complicated. I thought if I made it smooth for one night we could manage the rest later. "You mean manage me?" He flinched. "Good. I thought you would understand the stakes, he said. There it was again, the burden shifted back to me, my pain as failure to understand. I understood the stakes better than you did, I said. That is why the deal had clause 7. His lawyer cleared his throat. We are not here to debate contractual interpretation. Nora smiled. That is unfortunate for you. Adrian pressed his palms flat on the table. What do you want? I almost answered with the old list, an apology, the truth, my name restored, a husband who loved me enough not to erase me. But those were not demands, they were grief, so I gave him the legal answer. Full financial disclosure, public correction of the Gala misrepresentation, cooperation with asset preservation, no direct contact, a divorce settlement that reflects my premarital contributions and your unauthorized transfers. His face went pale at divorce settlement. Evelyn, slow down. No, we do not have to end everything because of Celeste. I stared at him. You still think this is because of her? His eyes sharpened. Isn't it? No, Celeste is not the disease, she is a symptom with good lighting. His lawyer looked down at his notes. Adrian's mouth tightened. That is cruel. No, cruel was making me watch a ballroom applaud while you handed her my name. For the first time, his eyes filled with something that looked like shame, not enough, but something. I panicked, he said softly. Everything was moving too fast, the company, the board, the expectations. Celeste made things easier. I nodded slowly. She admired you without knowing what you owed. He looked away. That landed because it was true. I knew too much. I remembered debt, fear, rejected loans, his father's disappointed friends, the night he punched a wall after Whitmore initially declined. I remembered the man before the myth. Celeste loved the myth. Men like Adrian preferred women who met them after the victory parade. He took a breath. I can end it with her. I looked at him for a long moment. The sentence would have broken me a year ago. It would have felt like winning. Proof that if I endured enough, he would choose me again. Now it sounded like a man offering to return stolen goods after the police arrived. I am not negotiating for your fidelity. I said, I am leaving because you made betrayal operational. His brows drew together. You used company staff, donor materials, family accounts, and legal timing to replace me while extracting my signature. That was not an affair, it was a strategy. Silence. Adrian's lawyer stopped writing. Adrian looked at me as if I had put a name to something he had hoped would remain fog. I never meant to hurt you like this, he said. I believed that. Oddly, he had not meant to hurt me like this. He had meant to benefit from hurting me quietly. That was different. You meant for me to adjust, I said. He closed his eyes for a second. The room fell away and I saw the man from the old apartment, sleeves rolled up, hair messy, laughing at burnt toast, telling me he would spend his life proving I had not bet on the wrong man. I had not bet on the wrong man. I had bet too long on a man who changed after winning. Adrian opened his eyes. If you go through with the hearing tomorrow, the board may remove me. Yes, Vale Global could lose phase 2. Yes, thousands of employees could be affected. No, I said. Thousands of employees were put at risk when you built expansion on concealed misconduct. Do not hand me the bill for your arrogance. His face hardened. There he was again, the man who arrived whenever guilt stopped working. You think Heart Trust survives this untouched, he said. You think people will not say you destroyed your husband because you were embarrassed. Let them say it. They will call you bitter. They already did. They will say you were nothing before me. I smiled then, not kindly. Tomorrow I will remind them what I was before you. He leaned back. The meeting ended shortly after that. No settlement, no agreement, no miracle in the hallway. Adrian caught up to me despite Nora's warning look. Eve, he said. I stopped. He looked exhausted in the hotel light. Did you ever love me? He asked. The cruelty of that question almost stole my breath. After everything, he still wanted my love to reassure him. Yes, I said. That was the problem. He looked stricken. I left before he could turn my grief into comfort for himself. That night, I slept for 4 hours. When I woke, the bruise on my cheek had deepened to a faint purple shadow. I covered it lightly with makeup, then changed my mind and wiped the makeup off. Let them see what private pressure looked like. At 8:30 a.m. Nora arrived. You ready? No, yes. Mia met us downstairs with binders. The car took us through morning traffic toward the hearing venue, a private conference center attached to Whitmore's headquarters outside. Reporters had already gathered. Adrian's team had leaked enough to make the hearing a spectacle. Fine, spectacles could cut both ways. As we stepped out of the car, cameras turned. A reporter called, Mrs. Vale, are you trying to destroy your husband's company? I paused. Nora's hand touched my elbow, warning. I looked into the cameras. No, I said, I am trying to tell the truth about who built it, who risked it, and who lied. Then I walked inside. The hearing room was colder than the gala ballroom. No flowers, no music, no champagne, just a long table, microphones, water pitchers, and people who controlled more money than most cities. Whitmore Pension Alliance had sent 3 representatives. Meridian Children's Hospital had sent its board chair and legal counsel. Vale Global Special Committee sat on one side. Adrian sat opposite them with his lawyers. Celeste sat behind him again this time. She looked less like a future wife and more like evidence waiting to be called. I sat with Nora and Mia. My folders were arranged by timeline, not emotion, that mattered. Nora had taught me that truth needed structure before powerful people would tolerate it. Helena Morris opened the hearing. We are here to determine whether Heart Trust's withdrawal of final authorization under the Meridian Infrastructure Partnership was contractual justified, and whether alternative continuation structures are available. Adrian's lead counsel spoke first. He was silver-haired, expensive, and condescending in the careful way lawyers became when they thought the facts were ugly but the woman opposing them could still be discredited. This matter began as a private marital conflict. He said, Mr. Vale acknowledges that an unfortunate misunderstanding occurred at a public event. However, Heart Trust's response has been disproportionate, damaging, and financially reckless. A single social misstatement cannot justify the collapse of a transformative public-private partnership. I wrote down one phrase, single social misstatement. Nora glanced at it and nearly smiled. Adrian's counsel continued for 20 minutes. He spoke of jobs, hospital access, market confidence, lender concerns, and founder stability. He used my name rarely. When he did, he said Mrs. Vale, not Evelyn Hart, not managing trustee Mrs. Vale. Even now, their strategy depended on making me smaller than my authority. When he finished, Nora stood. She did not raise her voice. Mr. Ralston asks this room to view the gala as a single social misstatement. We will show it was neither single nor merely social nor a misstatement. She clicked the remote. The screen lit up. Timeline: 4 months before gala. Increased payments to Celeste Monroe under consulting labels. 3 months before gala. CM Holdings apartment down payment. 6 weeks before gala. Private fertility clinic expense billed through Adrian Vale's discretionary account. 2 weeks before gala. PR draft framing Evelyn Hart as unstable if conflict emerged. 3 days before gala. Sponsor team request to replace Mrs. Evelyn Vale. Seating materials. Gala night. Printed program identifying Celeste Monroe as Mrs. Celeste Vale. Gala night. Adrian Vale introducing Celeste as his wife. Gala night. Revised authorization packet prepared for Evelyn Hart's signature. The room went silent before Nora said a word. That was the power of sequence. Payne argued. Sequence proved. Adrian stared at the screen. His face had gone rigid. Celeste looked as if she might be sick. Nora played the video again. Adrian's voice filled the room. My wife Celeste. No applause this time, just the flat echo of a lie. Nora turned to the committee. This was a transaction event. It involved key donors, public officials, institutional investors, and hospital leadership. Mr. Vale publicly misidentified a paid consultant and undisclosed financial beneficiary as his spouse while his actual spouse, the managing trustee whose authorization remained necessary for final closing, was present and uninformed. Whitmore's lead representative, Karen Liu, leaned forward. Ms. Blake, are you alleging misuse of transaction-related funds? We are alleging there is sufficient evidence to require investigation before any final authorization can responsibly proceed. Adrian's lawyer stood. These financial characterizations are misleading. Nora nodded to Mia. Mia stood, opened the binder, and walked the room through the transfers. No drama, no adjectives, dates, accounts, entities, descriptions, amounts. By the time she finished, the word affair had become too small for the room. Meridian's counsel asked, Ms. Hart, did you know about these payments before the gala? I leaned toward the microphone. No. Did you authorize them? No. Had Mr. Vale disclosed that Ms. Monroe had been presented as his spouse in event materials prior to seeking your final authorization? No. Adrian's jaw worked. Karen Liu looked at him. Mr. Vale, did you review the gala program before the event? His lawyer whispered to him. Adrian said, I saw portions. Did you know Ms. Monroe was listed as Mrs. Celeste Vale? A long pause. I became aware of confusion. Karen's face did not change. That was not my question. The room waited. Adrian looked at me. I did not look away. Yes, he said finally. I knew there was an issue. Celeste closed her eyes. Helena Morris looked down at her notes. Adrian's counsel quickly said, "The issue was administrative and not intended to mislead." Nora clicked to the staff incident report. Sponsor team replaced original seat card. Guest log Celeste Monroe Vale. Staff note. Guest corrected name from Monroe to Vale and said, "Not after tonight." Karen Liu turned slowly toward Celeste. "Miss Monroe, did you say that?" Celeste's voice was faint. "I don't remember." Nora played lobby security audio from my apartment building, not all of it, only the part where Celeste said, "He gave it to me." Her own voice filled the room. "I did not steal your husband. You accepted my name at a gala. He gave it to me." Nora stopped the recording. Celeste began to cry. This time, no one moved to comfort her. Adrian looked trapped between fury and collapse. I thought I would feel triumphant. I did not. I felt clear. The truth did not heal the wound, it cleaned it. Karen Liu conferred quietly with her team. Meridian's board chair spoke with counsel. Helena Morris requested 10 minutes. The room broke into murmurs. Adrian stood abruptly and walked toward me. Nora moved first. "Do not." He stopped. His eyes were red. "Was this worth it?" he asked. I looked at the hearing room, the documents, the lawyers, the woman he chose sitting behind him with tears on her face, the company he risked, the partnership he used as a shield, the marriage he thought could be repaired after being converted into strategy. "No," I said, "that is why I wish you had not done it." He flinched as if I had struck him. The committee returned. Helena spoke first. Vale Global Special Committee has determined that Mr. Vale's conduct and undisclosed financial entanglements create significant governance risk. Effective immediately, Mr. Vale's authority over Meridian-related matters is suspended pending investigation. Adrian's face drained. Karen Liu followed. "Whitmore will not proceed with Phase 2 under Mr. Vale's control. We are prepared to explore a revised structure with Heart Trust, Meridian Children's Hospital and independent oversight." Meridian's board chair nodded. "Our priority is the hospital mission. We will not permit that mission to be used to obscure personal misconduct." Reporters were waiting outside. News traveled before we left the room. Adrian Vale suspended from Meridian Authority. Heart Trust withdrawal justified. Mistress introduced as wife at Gala. Financial transfers under review. The empire did not fall all at once. Empires rarely did. First came silence, then distance, then doors closing. As we stepped into the corridor, Celeste rushed past me, mascara streaked, phone pressed to her ear. "Adrian, tell them this is not all on me," she said. He did not answer her. He was staring at the floor. I walked toward the exit. Behind me he said my name, not Eve, not sweetheart, Evelyn. I stopped but did not turn. "I am sorry," he said. There it was finally, the sentence I had once needed more than sleep. It arrived late, small and surrounded by witnesses. I turned just enough to see him. "I know," I said. Hope flickered across his face. Then I finished. "I am sorry too, for the woman I became trying to save you from yourself." I left him standing beneath the fluorescent lights while the cameras outside waited for the ruin he had built. Divorce mediation took place in a beige room designed to make everyone regret marriage equally. There was a long table, a box of tissues, a pitcher of water, and a mediator named Susan, who spoke in the soft voice of someone who had watched people fight over both custody schedules and coffee machines. Adrian sat across from me. He looked thinner. Vale Global's board had placed him on administrative leave pending the investigation. Lenders had tightened terms. Whitmore had walked. Meridian had entered alternative talks with Heart Trust and independent operators. Celeste had resigned from her consulting role 3 days before the company could terminate her. The press called it a scandal. Adrian called it a misunderstanding until his lawyers made him stop. Now he called it a difficult period. I called it Tuesday. Susan folded her hands. "We are here to discuss marital asset division, protected premarital contributions, reimbursement claims, and potential settlement language." Adrian's lawyer had aged 5 years in 2 weeks. Nora looked refreshed. That seemed unfair but satisfying. The first are covered accounts, the second covered the Westbrook house. Adrian wanted to keep it. I did not want to live there. Those were not the same thing. Mr. Vale proposes buying out MS Heart's protected equity over a 5-year schedule. His lawyer said, "No," Nora replied. Adrian's mouth tightened. "I cannot liquidate that much immediately. You should have considered liquidity before routing funds to a mistress's apartment," Nora said. Susan inhaled. Adrian looked at me. "Are you going to let her talk to me like that?" I almost laughed. Even here, even now, he looked to me to manage the discomfort he caused. "Yes," I said. His eyes darkened. "The mediator redirected us by lunch." Adrian agreed to sell the Westbrook house unless he could secure full payment of my protected equity within 90 days. He would reimburse specific transfers pending final accounting. He would cooperate with Discovery. He would make no public statements implying I acted from emotional instability. That last clause took the longest. Adrian resisted it harder than the money because money could be earned again. Narrative was harder to surrender. When the draft settlement language appeared on the screen, he read it silently. Neither party shall characterize Hart Trust's withdrawal or MS. Hart's divorce filing as irrational, unstable, vindictive, or emotionally motivated. He gave a bitter smile. So I cannot tell the truth. I looked at him. The truth is available to you, that is why you are uncomfortable. His smile vanished. Susan suggested a break. Adrian stayed seated after everyone else rose. Evelyn, he said quietly. Nora paused at the door. It's fine, I said. She did not like it, but she stepped outside. Adrian and I were alone for the first time since the hotel meeting. He looked at his hands. I ended it with Celeste. I said nothing. She was never what you think. I do not spend much time thinking about what she was. His throat moved. She wanted the life. Yes, I think part of me knew that. Of course you did. He looked up sharply. I continued. That was why you liked her. She loved the version of you that required no memory. His face twisted. You keep saying things like that. True things. Cruel things. They feel cruel because they do not protect you. He leaned back, exhausted. Did I ever have you, really? The question irritated me more than it hurt. You had me when I refinanced your debt with my father's contacts. You had me when I stood beside you at your first investor dinner and watched men ask you questions I had already answered in the documents. You had me when I slept in hospital chairs beside your mother after her surgery while you closed the Denver acquisition. You had me when I ignored perfume late nights and lies because I wanted to believe success had made you distracted, not selfish. His eyes reddened. You had me, I said. You just mistook having me for owning me. He covered his face with one hand. For a moment I saw genuine grief. It did not change anything. That was one of the hardest lessons. A person could finally understand the damage and still not be owed another chance. After mediation, I went to the Westbrook house for the last time. Mrs. Bell met me at the door. I packed the library items you listed. She said, thank you. The house smelled of polish and rain. It no longer smelled like Celeste's perfume. It no longer smelled like mine either. Rooms became strange quickly after love left them. I walked through the foyer, past the dining room where Margaret had told me a wife protects her husband, past the stairs where Celeste had stood in my home wearing my earrings, past the bedroom where I had packed my life into 2 suitcases. In the library, my mother's portrait hung above the fireplace. Not a formal painting, a charcoal sketch my father had commissioned before she got sick. She was laughing in it, head turned slightly, hair loose around her face. I had placed it in the Westbrook library because I wanted one woman in that house to look free. I climbed the small step stool and lifted it down. Adrian appeared in the doorway while I was wrapping it. I did not know you were coming today, he said. I scheduled it through counsel. I did not think you would come yourself. I wanted her. He looked at the portrait. I always liked that sketch. No, I said, you liked that. Guests asked about it. He accepted that quietly. The house around us creaked in the rain. Are you really selling? He asked. If you cannot buy me out, yes. This was our home. I looked around the library. Was it a home? Was not made by tile, furniture, rosemary, or framed photographs. A home required safety. I had mistaken beauty for shelter. It was a house where I worked very hard to feel chosen. I said. He stepped closer. Evelyn, I know I cannot undo what happened, but if we slow down, maybe after the investigation, after the press calms, we could talk, not about the company, about us. There is no us outside what you were willing to do to keep the company. That is not fair. It is exact. His face tightened. I loved you. I know. I still do. I tied the string around the wrapped portrait. No, I said. You love the woman who absorbed the cost of being near you. She is gone. He looked toward the window. Rain streaked the glass. What if I become different? He asked. Then become different for the next room you enter, not for mine. He turned back. You really never look back, do you? That was not true. I had looked back for years, back at the man he had been, back at the promises, back at the hungry young founder with tired eyes and coffee on his shirt, back at every version of us that made the present harder to leave. But looking back was not the same as walking back. I said, I just do not return. Mrs. Bell helped carry the portrait to the car before I left. She handed me an envelope. What is this? My resignation. I gave notice to Mr. Vale. I thought you might know of a household that needs a stubborn old woman who does not ignore entry logs. I smiled so hard it hurt. I might. She nodded. Good. As the car pulled away from Westbrook, I watched the house grow smaller behind the rain. I expected to feel grief, I did, but beneath it was something steadier, space. 1 year later, I stood backstage at the new Meridian Access Fund launch and listened to a young event coordinator practice my introduction 3 times. Evelyn Hart, managing trustee of Hart Trust and founding partner of the Meridian Access Fund. She stopped and looked at me nervously. Is that correct? Yes, I said. That is correct. No Mrs. Vale, no borrowed identity, no erased contribution hidden behind a man's speech, just my name. The launch was smaller than the gala that had ended my marriage. No senators, fewer diamonds, better coffee. The room was filled with hospital administrators, municipal partners, transport engineers, nurses, legal aid organizers, and donors who cared more about execution than applause. I liked it immediately. Hart Trust had restructured the original Meridian vision through independent oversight. The hospital partnership survived, the access network expanded, the money went where it was supposed to go. Vale Global, under new management, became one of several vendors instead of the empire at the center. Adrian had resigned as CEO 6 months after the hearing. The official statement cited governance transition. The unofficial truth had better circulation. He kept a board advisory role for a while, then lost it after lenders forced asset sales. The Westbrook house went on the market in autumn. I did not attend the closing, nor did Celeste. Left New York before winter. Her rumored pregnancy was never mentioned again. The Tribeca apartment became part of a settlement dispute. Her social accounts went private for months. Tabloids tried to turn her into either a temptress or a victim. I refused to help them choose. She had been responsible for her choices. Adrian had been responsible for his. That was enough. Margaret sent one letter after the divorce was finalized. It was handwritten, stiff, and almost an apology if read by someone desperate. I was not desperate. I did not answer. My divorce decree arrived on a Friday. Evelyn Hart v. Adrian Vale. I read it once, placed it in a folder, and went to dinner with Mia, Nora, Mrs. Bell, and Daniel Price, who had left Vale Global to become CFO of a non-profit infrastructure group. We toasted to paperwork. It was a better celebration than any gala. Now backstage, Nora adjusted the clasp on my bracelet. Are you nervous? She asked. No, liar, a little. Good, it means you care. Mia appeared with a tablet. Program is clean, no surprise wives. I laughed. The sound came easily now. That still surprised me sometimes. Healing did not arrive like a sunrise. It arrived like small ordinary things returning: sleep, appetite, music in the kitchen, the ability to pass a jewelry store without remembering emeralds, the ability to hear Adrian's name without feeling my body brace for impact. I had not become invincible. I had become unavailable for the same harm. That was better. The coordinator peeked in. MS Hart, 2 minutes. I nodded, then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I should have ignored it. I knew before opening it who it was. Evelyn, I heard about tonight. I am glad Meridian survived. I know that was always yours more than mine. I am sorry it took losing everything to understand that. Adrian, I read the message once. Nora saw my face. Him. Yes. Do you want me to respond? No. I locked the phone. For years Adrian's messages had been weather. A word from him could brighten or ruin my day. A delay could make me anxious. A cold sentence could make me review myself for flaws. Now his apology sat behind a dark screen while someone called my name. That was freedom. The lights warmed as I stepped onto the stage. Applause rose, not thunderous, not the empty roaring sound of a ballroom applauding a lie. This applause was smaller, cleaner, and mine. I reached the podium. In the front row sat a mother holding a little boy with a blue cast on his arm. Beside them sat a nurse from Meridian Children's Hospital, smiling like she had personally fought traffic, bureaucracy, and fate to get there. Maybe she had. I looked at them and thought of my brother. Then I looked at the room. Good evening, I said. My name is Evelyn Hart. I paused. No one corrected it. No one added Vale. No one looked around for the man who used to stand in front of me. I continued. A year ago, this partnership nearly failed because too many decisions were made behind closed doors, protected by silence, reputation, and fear. Tonight, we begin again with a different rule. No mission is strong enough to survive dishonesty. No institution is generous if it requires someone invisible to keep paying the cost. And no future worth building should depend on a woman disappearing from her own life. The room was very quiet. Good quiet, listening quiet, I smiled. The Meridian Access Fund will support transportation, treatment coordination, and legal navigation for families who do not have the luxury of time. We are here because access is not charity, it is infrastructure, it is dignity, it is the difference between a promise printed in a program and a promise kept. As I spoke, I saw a figure near the back doors, Adrian. He stood half in shadow, wearing a dark suit that no longer seemed like armor. He looked older, not ruined exactly, human, smaller than the myth, larger than the villain, and far too late to matter. For a second our eyes met. He did not move toward me, he did not interrupt, he only stood there and listened as the room applauded my name. After the speech, donors and partners gathered around. The evening moved quickly, hands to shake, questions to answer, photos to take. This time when cameras flashed, I did not step aside. Near the end of the night, I found Adrian waiting in the hallway beyond the reception room. Nora was across the hall, close enough to intervene, far enough to let me decide. Evelyn, he said. Adrian, he looked at the floor then back at me. You were good up there, I know. A faint, sad smile crossed his face. You always were. I did not soften. He deserved the truth, not comfort. I came to apologize in person, he said, not to ask for anything. All right, he swallowed. I am sorry for the gala, for Celeste, for the money, for making you feel like you had to earn a place in your own marriage. I told myself I was under pressure, but that was cowardice. I told myself you would understand, but what I meant was that you would endure it. You did not deserve any of it. The apology was better now, cleaner, less useful. Thank you, I said. His eyes searched mine, maybe for a door left open. There was none. I miss you, he said. I missed myself more. He closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, he nodded. I know. For the first time I believed he might. He stepped aside, not dramatically, not as a defeated king, just a man making room in a hallway. I walked past him at the glass doors. I stopped and looked back once, not because I wanted him, because I wanted to remember this correctly. Adrian Vale had been the great love of one version of my life. He had also been the man who stood under chandeliers and gave my name away to another woman. Both things were true, but neither truth owned me anymore. Outside, the night air was cold and bright. Mia was waiting by the car with